Hello everyone, so this time I would like to share a video about waistbands, and I would like to share some tips that have been quite helpful in my work when I have to work with this type of waistband where I have elastic inside, as well as I will show you a few ways how to create eyelets with cord or with ribbon. So basically this is kind of like a summary of my favorite tips when working on this type of detail. Okay, so here I have just a basic pant and I'm using Knit Terry from CLO3D default fabric library. This fabric is not very bendable, so usually with this type of fabric it happens that the waistband becomes quite bulky like this. And even in real life, it does look like it. It's nothing completely wrong, but very often it's better to have a less bulky look, but of course depends on what result you want. So as you can see now, even on particle distance 5, the waistband is still quite bulky. So I will explain a few ways how to avoid this. And first of all, what I like to do is I like to freeze this inside elastic, because usually I set it first. I set it in the position on the body where I want it to be, and then I put it on the final quality. So this time I leave it on particle distance 10, and then I just don't touch it. I leave it as it is, because usually I don't want it to interact with the top layer because there can be some collision problems and things like that. So it's best to have the clean elastic simulated, frozen, and then you're good to go. Yes, so now I will work on the top layer. So first of all, how to avoid this bulkiness effect. There are a few ways. First of all, because this is a visualization, I allow myself not to completely respect the patterns. So for example, this here I have 5 centimeter height of this piece, but I like to take away 2 or 5 millimeter from the top layer, because that kind of stretches this pattern piece, and then the bulkiness is reduced a little bit like this. So it's already a little bit better look than before. This is just something I do to quickly get it done. Maybe with a different combination of tips you can avoid doing this, but usually I do it. Or I leave this one on 5 and then I reduce the elastic. Depends how I feel that day, I guess. Yeah. So first of all, reducing that can help. Then of course, reducing collision thickness. Here, as you can see, there's not really that much effect. And then the last thing I like to do is add skive. So skive basically reduces the stiffness of the fabric, and it's percentage, so you can decide what percentage you want. Let's be quite extreme and put it on 20%. You can see now it looks very delicate, the wrinkle, but of course that also doesn't look natural for this type of fabric, so we shouldn't go as low. So I would say, let's see how 90 look. Still looks rather delicate. $95 I think looks more natural, but maybe the bulkiness is a bit too much. 92. Maybe 93 will be the optimal. Or 94. Where is it? Yeah, so basically change it until you find the result that best fits the fabric that you chose. I think this is quite okay, I would say. And then this tool is also good because when you use sky, you don't have to reduce the particle distance to, for example, 2, or use shearing. Shearing very often creates issues too. So that's why I like to use sky for this too. Okay, now that the bulkiness is reduced, I will start making the eyelets. For eyelets, I think there are several methods how to do it. So I will show you one method that I recently learned, and it was very useful in one of my projects. So I will show that first, and then, you know, some little variations that you can also use depending on the situation. Okay, so first of all, I will choose the size of the eyelet. So let me pick the shape. Let's do this one. I really like this one. It's very simple, and I want to maybe do 17, but let me place it first. Okay, so it was 50, right? And now 22.5. Okay, that seems alright. And I will duplicate. Maybe position is also okay, I think. So now that I've placed these eyelets here and I've chosen the size and the position, I will create internal ellipse. So first ellipse will be the size of the eyelet, so 17, and the second one will be 2 millimeter smaller, 50. So the small one I cut and sew, so the small ellipse circle will carry the eyelet, and the big one will help to keep the area stable of where the eyelet is placed. Because very often when you add these eyelets, right, they don't really, there's no stiffness here if you just place the eyelet. So the eyelet cannot be 100% parallel to the surface of the fabric. So that's why, of course, once I cut something, the skype disappears, so don't forget to add it again. Okay, so now I will copy the elastic, and this will be just a stiff fabric, and I will add it to those circles that I created, and make sure that particle distance is low. And you can see now that I have this stiffer fabric, it creates a very straight surface. So when you have that straight surface, this part, the eyelet, you can have the eyelet become parallel to the surface like this. And of course it's not yet super close, and it does not look natural, obviously, how it looks. First of all, I switch off the collision. And one thing I do is change thread length to maybe -1 or -2. It depends on the situation, and then, yeah, the thickness of the eyelet and so on. So I think this approach is very useful when you work with eyelets as trims. For example, if you have special eyelets that have engraving or things like that, I think that's quite useful, this method. So these are the first steps, but it's not finished yet. Of course, we want to pull something through these eyelets, right? So there will be either a cord or a ribbon, and cord or a ribbon cannot go through a pattern piece, so we need to create like a space for it. And I very randomly thought maybe I can just cut some part off. So I just cut this kind of entry place. I create this entry space, and you can even add like a, no, not like that, either add the curve point and make sure it doesn't go over the eyelet placement, and then you can create this space where a cord can go through. That's quite important to get very natural look. Of course, you can attach the cord or the or the string or whatever you have to the piece, to the base of the eyelet. But if you do close-ups and you want to emphasize this detail, that doesn't always look so natural. So the most natural look is when you can clearly have the feeling that the cord is coming outside from the eyelet. So that's why this method is useful if you want to go that extra mile for this realism. Of course, it's a bit tedious work. It's not the quickest work, but of course depends how much realism you want. So I will add just the regular eyelets, not eyelets, cords first. Okay, I have these, so I will move them closer. Okay, and then I need to create a place where to sew them on the inside elastic. So I will just click here and just freehand draw a line. It doesn't have to be super precise, I think. Then I will attach the cords to this line. Like this. Okay, and then we can simulate. And we can also move a little bit the lines further so that there is more kind of bend for the cord. Then here you will see that the cord drips in the eyelet, so there's a few ways how you can try to avoid it, but not always it's avoidable. Sometimes it does it no matter what. So you can increase the additional thickness collision for the cord, so it already kind of lifts up a little bit, and then you can select these extra rings and you can also increase the thickness the additional thickness collision. Yeah, and then this helps to avoid it more, but very often just have to add some pins for help. Okay, and then here you get the very natural looking finishing. And for these parts, of course, it's good to put opacity on 0 because you want to see through. And then you can play around a little bit. Maybe you need to put this deeper. Yeah, something like this. So this is one of the ways. The more simple way is also, if you don't want to use the trims, you can also create eyelet just by using pattern piece. So I will delete these internal ones and I will make this visible. So this basically will be my eyelet, and I will put particle distance on 2 so it's the shape is more smooth. And then I will add additional thickness rendering. So for example, if I want something like this, and then you can see there's some pixels appearing. So this is coming from the 3D seam line. So this I can just put on 0. These eyelets are not the smoothest things, of course, because they are made out of pattern pieces. And not always they will keep this very strong shape. So yeah, there's also not much control over the thickness, because even if you use the thickness, where is it? Thickness collision rendering, it doesn't really increase the thickness in specific directions. It just decreases the thickness all over. But as just a kind of quick visualization, of course it's quick and useful. And also where you have these segment points, you will see these lines appearing. And if you have cords, for example, this cord is kind of in front of the bottom line. So basically you can convert to curve points, all those segment points, and just leave one segment point. So for a circle like this, you just need one segment point basically. It works completely fine. And then you can get this more rounded shape as well. You can control a little bit the curvature. I don't know how to properly pronounce that. Yeah, so kind of many ways how you can go about it, to be honest. And then also once you, for example, if you realize that, you know, this is not wide enough, it's also very simple to edit it. Just delete the internal ellipse and create a new one. Let's say this time I want 12 millimeter. Convert to whole. And you can again convert to curve points. And then you can also control the curved side geometry. Yeah. Like this. And this is quite also a good approach because it's much easier to avoid collision between the eyelet and the cord. Yeah, so as you can see, it doesn't go into the eyelet that much. And then you can add whatever texture effect you want, also metal. Yeah, so it looks quite nice, I would say. And then when I do ribbons, I usually use the ribbons from here. I mostly don't have the patience to make them myself. This one I use quite often. This one too, and yeah, this one. Basically, these all of them are quite standard and can be used. And when it comes to these types of ribbons, so they don't have like that kind of base that's attached, that you attach the ribbon to, so you have to create that base. And if I have this type of eyelet situation, so I will delete these cords, and basically I have to first create that base pattern piece. Maybe I will measure how long I need it. Let's say 6 centimeter. Well, let's do 7 and 10. So that will be the base of the ribbon. Okay, and now it will be sewn here. I will change the length of this to 10. Okay, like this. And I will position it. Also make sure to reduce particle distance and thickness collision. Okay. To simulate it, the best thing is to add some folds. Otherwise it's just gonna be a mess. Like that. And using the fold arrangement tool, fold them inside the holes. Okay, and then, yeah, well, this tends to happen quite often. So it freezes some parts and simulates some parts, and then it becomes a mess. To avoid that, you can freeze everything, simulate, unfreeze everything, freeze the inner waistband, and then simulate again. Then it might be useful also to freeze these. It's always funny how one side is completely calm and perfect and the other side is like freaking out. Okay, but I think it worked out quite well. I will delete these. Okay, and there's quite a lot of space. So I will maybe reduce length, yeah, like this. You know, sometimes there are quite a lot of collision issues, especially when you have a lot of thickness here. So let's say 7. So it's kind of like a game. Oh, this became a bit crazy, I think. it's kind of like a, I don't know, a guessing game, which kind of property combination will work best. I mean, this may be too much. Okay, I think this looks fine. Meanwhile, this one is falling down. And now I will just bring it up. And I never fold these ones like in real life because they're just a waste of time, I think. And they not fold but to tie them, because that's, yeah, waste of time. Usually just do it like this, a little bit faking, I guess. And I will sew this part. Yep. So I need internal line and maybe slightly higher here. And I sew this somewhere here. Okay. And then we can have this nice ribbon. I don't know what this fabric is. I will change it. Okay, something like this. And here you go. Okay, so basically these are the tips that I wanted to share with you this time. If you have any questions or suggestions, or do you need some other tips regarding this specific detail, please don't hesitate to let me know in the comments. Yeah, and yeah, have a good day. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.